Hello there, Drew Hanish of Whiskey Lore. It's time for another whiskey tasting, and in this video I am going to do a tasting of Laphroaig's Sherry Oak Finish. It says finish, and when I was looking it up on the website, I was trying to figure out how they did the aging on this, because it mentions that they take Laphroaig 10 and then they finish it in Oloroso sherry barrels. The copy below that says that it's aged in sherry oak and also in ex-bourbon. And of course, ex-bourbon is how they normally age Laphroaig 10. I believe they use Maker's Mark. It's part of Beam Suntory, so I think it's Maker's Mark's barrels that they use for Laphroaig. But that was a little confusing because I'm like, okay, wait a second. So it's got to be under, 11 years, I guess. Otherwise, you could call it Laphroaig 11 if it went 10 years in one and a year in the other one. Whatever, it tends to get enough color in it during however long it's in there to look pretty rich there. This is 48% alcohol by volume for 96 proof, which is nice. It's a higher proof than standard Laphroaig 10. And I have an interview coming up with John Campbell, who was the man behind this. This was released in 2020, and he was the distillery manager at Laphroaig at the time. He's now with Lackluster. And that is what we talk about in the podcast interview that I'm going to do with him. And we'll have it here on the YouTube channel as well. Fascinating conversation, because I am a huge fan of Laphroaig. Laphroaig 10 cask strength to me is my number one favorite whiskey. It is a whiskey that I can drink anytime. I know some people say peated whiskeys are for the winter. Sorry, I drink coffee in the summertime. I drink peated whiskey in the summertime. It's not like throwing a bucket of water on the Wicked Witch of the West. She's not going to. I'm not going to dissolve away because I had a peated whiskey in the middle of the summer. I drink Guinness in the summer. I don't care. To me, it can taste good any time of the year. If it's good, it's good. There are some things that just transcend these climate conditions or seasons. To me, it's just much more about, do you enjoy the whiskey? Do you not enjoy the whiskey? Does a peated whiskey taste better in the wintertime sitting by a fire? Yeah, it does. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't taste good in the summertime. I don't know. What do you think? Can you drink a peated whiskey in the summertime and it's fine for you? Or are you like, no, that's just, it's so out of character, I can't do it? Leave your comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And give me a like if you enjoy these videos and me going through and doing nosings and tastings and giving you some background on these whiskeys. So I bought this bottle because I am a huge fan of the PX cask, and I so wanted to get a bottle of that, but it was always in travel retail, so I couldn't buy it because I was never in a position to be able to do so. So when this came out, I snagged it off the shelf immediately, and then when I tasted it, I think I had expectations from having Kilchoman Sonic and Bowmore 15, the darkest, of what kind of flavors you could get out of bringing peat and sherry together. And it didn't hit me right at first. I have grown to like it. You can see there I've had put a nice dent in this bottle. It's still not my go-to Laphroaig, but it's one that has definitely grown on me. So I'm going to do a nosing and tasting on this one. And right off the bat, you get this sherry that is more the dark fruit sherry. You're going to get your raisins, maybe a little plum in there. And it's working along with the smells that you're familiar with Laphroaig 10. It's got a nice amount of smoky bacon in there, a little medicinal on top of it, that iodine that comes through, just a hint of that, the seaweedy, saline kind of a flavor that you get out of Laphroaig. It's there. In a way, the sherry kind of interrupts your brain in terms of when you're nosing it. You're going, okay, yeah, that I don't know. At first, it's a little shocking, and then you kind of get used to it. Once it reaches the palate, like a little cinnamon in there with raisins. The smoke takes a little time to develop. Once it comes out, it's definitely there. There's a bitter / sour tannin thing that comes through, and they use European oak, and sometimes European oak can give off some of those heavy tannins. They're hard to work out of a whiskey, and it's slightly off-putting, but it's just for a moment. And then as it goes into the finish, you actually end up with some hybrid of a plum meets Laphroaig smoke finish. And so it's interesting. I can't say I'm overly in love with it, but I can't say that I don't like it. It's right there in the middle. I mean, this is a good whiskey. It just, to me, I guess in a way, as a Laphroaig drinker, I'm thinking maybe I should just have a sherry whiskey, or maybe I should just have Laphroaig. It's like they're not blending 100% probably the way I would like to have them blend with each other. It feels like two experiences going on at the same time, and so I think that is what keeps me from just falling in love. And I don't know that it's necessarily that it's not blended well. I think it has more to do with the fact that Laphroaig has such a character to it that you are so familiar with, that unless you mix something with it and it blends, really well and infuses with those flavors, which I think PX actually does a little bit better than Oloroso, it can be a little bit of something that throws you off your game and makes you go, oh, wait, there's something weird going on here. What is it? It doesn't just happen and you enjoy it as it's rolling along. And I'll give you an example, because I actually took some Glendronach cask strength batch 8. I wasn't enjoying that so much on its own, but I mixed it with some cask strength Laphroaig, and it actually blended really nice. So it can be done, but in this particular case, I'm just not as in love with it as I would be. If this is sitting right next to a bottle of Laphroaig 10, I'm probably going to grab the Laphroaig 10 first. Carchus, they now have the Pedro Jimenez version. I will be doing a tasting on that coming up in a future video. We'll see how I react to that one. Of course, that's going to be cask strength, so it's going to be a higher proof, and that may make a difference as well. Who knows? But I'm thankful that they went for the higher proof on this bottling as well. I think it's heading in the right direction. I just don't know that this was the perfect example for me. Good whiskey, I'm going to drink it, but, like I say, I probably won't be buying another bottle of it. Cheers, and Sláinte mhath.